how does the scheduling work in the Big Ten now? I mean, does that mean, like, does Michigan have to play UCLA, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State every year with Wisconsin and Iowa thrown in? I mean, how is this going to work? Now that USC, UCLA is here, you got West Coast trips, right? I mean, like, that's going to be significant. Yep. When do you make them? You know, the USC gets to, you know, let's just say USC goes to both Ohio State and Michigan. Let's just throw that out there. But Ohio State, Michigan gets USC in September when it's real nice, but Ohio State gets them in November where, you know, kids from Rancho Cucamonga, like, you know, Ohio State's current quarterback, might have to put their hands in a fanny pack to keep them warm, you know? That was a shot I just made at Ohio State. Yes.
You want to be the parka salesman to USC athletics.
Yeah,
Good business right
yes,
now, right?
Yes. There will now be winter clothing that USC might not need in previous years. But how does it work? What are you hearing?
Well, they will probably play 9 games. And they'll have 3. So let's take your beloved Michigan.
Yes.
Right. You want to have your 3 rivalry games that you must play every year because you have to have Michigan play Ohio State, right?
You're going to have
to have Michigan play Michigan State.
Correct.
And maybe they play Minnesota because they got that little brown jug trophy or somebody else, whatever it is. And then you cycle through the rest of the teams, and you should be able to get to everybody home and away. So you would maybe play a USC every other year, and every 4 years you would either travel there or you would travel there. So you play home and away, but you could stack it up that way. So there's a way to kind of cycle it through where you get to play everybody fairly often, but you do not lose the big television draws and the hardcore rivalries that you need, such as, like, there's no way you're not having Michigan and Ohio State play every year because they get 10. That's the biggest game of the year. They get 10 million people to watch. So we're not expanding to lose 10 million person games. We're expanding to get more of them. But for UCLA and USC, extremely challenging. Lane Kiffin the other day was talking. I remember he coached USC.
Yep.
And he talked about when they would go play Notre Dame every other year. And it was a big deal of when do you leave because you got to get acclimated. And so they would leave on Thursdays for a Saturday game and get in early, and it's a grind. And they would always play that thing in the middle of the season. They would play at Notre Dame in mid-October when the game's in L.A., they do it at the end of the year. Now you're going to have to do that like week after week after week because, you know, there's certainly 2 road games in a row is not uncommon. So you might be USC or UCLA saying, hey, we're going to fly to Illinois, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to go play over at Rutgers the next week, and we got to go. So it's the travel for USC football and UCLA football is enormous. And same thing for obviously not just basketball, which people care about. Those are long road trips and all that, and you're going against time zones. But then how'd you like to be a baseball team or a softball team or the soccer team? You signed to play at UCLA. You think you're playing in warm weather, not like a winter game, a spring baseball game in East Lansing. You were signing up for something else. So for these non-revenue sports, it's even harder. They'll make it work for football, but it will be a challenge, as you see in the NFL. You know, when you're going west to east, it's a challenge for that team in the West. Well, it's a perpetual challenge now for UCLA and USC competitively.